welcome to my diary. I'm Tatami. On my mind recently has absolutely been first, before this week, it was two individuals shot by police, two unarmed individuals shot by not police, and one is an ex-police officer, by people upholding the racist systemic system, non-black people, white people. And it's really been just, wearing on my soul. At times I don't expect it. Details emerge that will take me out for hours, spiritually and emotionally. And yeah, between Bree and Ahmed, Arbery, and George, just this last week, it's been really hard to find footing and find something I can hold on to. So I got the idea to pull a card. I feel like it's been a while since I pulled myself a card that was just ancestrally guided. And I've pulled out a very special deck, a Black History playing card deck. This was made by the History Channel, but was, made by Dolores L. Holt, and Langley Newman is the portraiture, and this whole deck is nothing but ancestors. This is real history. I don't think when it was published, it was all ancestors, but I know Muhammad Ali is the person who I think is the kind of most recent person that I recognized in the bunch. I could be wrong. Somebody maybe is still kicking it, which I don't mean to be rude by any means. But at any rate, this deck was originally published in the 70s, and it features the ancestors, all with a different portrait made by the same person. So it's very cohesive, very beautiful. And yes, it is cartomancy, not tarot. But I'm still going to use the African Tarot deck tag, and we'll show it in that series where I show off this deck. But this deck will take a while because, as you can see, I took the time to not only write their biography, but write how that kind of impacts the card meaning itself. So this deck I don't quite use exactly in the perfect of cartomancy, and in fact I switch up several definitions depending, because it depends if you're French, if you're American, if you're Spaniard, if you're somewhere random in the diaspora. Everybody kind of has slightly different meanings for the different tarot cards. For the different playing cards, depending on where they're from and what it means. I'm pretty sure in France they don't even use diamonds or something like that. I don't know. Don't quote me. Don't quote me. At any rate, let me pull us a message from our ancestors, one for you and one for me, as usual. And we will get to this, but isn't the back of this one wonderful? The RBG flag. Y'all, before I was much of anything, I was super RBG. That's my shit. It's about the diaspora. It's about Black folks. It's about reclaiming what's ours, getting our reparations, getting our standing in life, and it's a struggle that impacts the whole world. So I don't know why everybody's not in on it, right? But it is what it is. It is what it is. So I'm gonna just flip through these, and since they're playing cards, I definitely shuffle them traditionally compared to other ones, even though they have such pretty pictures on them. It's always beautiful to have a deck like this. I really love this deck. I can't wait to share it with you. All right, we'll do it one more time. All right, this one's for me. That one's for you. All right. Okay. So I got Bessie Smith. And you somehow got exactly who I was talking about. Mr. the world's greatest, right? Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay. So my card we'll start with, always, Bessie, definitely, she was the Empress of the Blues, right? She was a hard worker. She trained since a really young age with some of the greatest blues artists. Ma Rainey comes to mind, but there were others. And she actually was one of the first best-selling Black artists of all times. One of her songs was bought 2 million times, and of those 2 million, the majority were Black folks. She was the first Black celebrity in that sense. And she didn't become famous to other people till after she passed. She passed from a car accident. And, it's just interesting. Now she's considered a staple pillar of jazz and blues music, or blues, should I say. But, she was a hard worker, but she was a big spender. She was an interesting person and really inspiring. And I think, something about this tells me that there are obstacles, there's reasons to have the blues because life's not fair. Life's just really not fair. But I love her attitude of it inspires me just to see her picture. I'm glad that this was my card because it just reminds me, like, when you see hard worker but a big spender, it's like, you work hard but you play hard, and that's where you get life's pleasures. So I appreciate that reminder from the ancestor Bessie. She knew how to live, didn't she? She wasn't here so long, but she knew how to fucking live. Even in this oppressive state, she found places where she could thrive and she could be the queen, where she could be crowned empress. And I salute that. I really appreciate that message. Now you. Now you. So we all know about Muhammad Ali. We all know he was a boxer, an activist. He was also Muslim, right? He had to fight against the draft because of his religion. He ended up getting stripped of his titles. He had to go to the Supreme Court. He won 8-0. He had to, then he was like, I got that back. I got, victory for the fact that I wasn't supposed to actually ever get drafted is basically what occurred there. They were just trying to purposefully draft the fool. Or I don't know if it was him or if it was just everybody. They just thought certain, black people were acting too uppity and needed to serve their country. I'm not sure what it was. But I do know that he fought that because it was unfairly. And then, since he was unfairly stripped of his title, that was when he had to fight George Foreman, and he regained his title years later. Victory, like where nobody really saw it coming, or maybe many didn't believe. He came back and reclaimed his title as the greatest, and now we still love George Foreman because, he got his grill and everything. But at any rate, I think this is a very interesting story because it reminds you, it's a reminder from the ancestors that, journeying outside of your comfort zone can lead to so many interesting and wonderful things, so much wealth. It may be a wealth of knowledge, maybe a wealth of relationships, friends, but stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping out of that zone that you've kind of kept yourself boxed in because you didn't want to suffer certain things. You don't suffer those things, but you also don't get the riches that you could have earned if you had gone for those things. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of the reminder that Muhammad Ali really gives, is that ability to step out of your comfort zone, that ability to stand your ground, even when it's like hella people are against you. It may seem on paper initially like most people don't really love to hear about somebody who's avoiding the draft, but I mean, Muhammad Ali was in the correct, and he was in the correct to think it was, inappropriate for them to strip him of his title. And instead of just trying to retroactively get his title back, he also trained that much harder so that he would again win in, the same competition, get his stuff back fair and square. Nobody can say anything. Nobody can get in his face about anything. He did it his own way and was able to gain, so many riches, so much wealth. He also had his beautiful family. Didn't he have twins? Like, he had just a beautiful life in so many ways. Not perfect, but very beautiful in so many ways. So I think that the inspiration for you is that journey outside of your comfort zone, that journey into spaces you may not normally journey into. Feel inspired to do that. And that may not be a combative thing like boxing or fighting or, putting your body physically out there. It could be finding your own ways to express yourself, and finding your own ways to make your voice heard and to walk against those things that you think need to be walked against. So that's absolutely my message from the ancestors for you today. I hope you like this deck, and I can't wait to share it with you, but we got a lot to talk about, obviously. I got a lot of little writing on my deck, so, and I don't want to do like 2 videos on it. When I do the video, I want it to be, that's the video, so whoever finds it can get, the wisdom that I spent time researching to make sure I had it's not perfect, but good language to describe these things, concise language, so that, you don't have too much writing on your cards, but it is something you can fit on there and really, be able to connect with the cards, because there's nothing like building that relationship with your cards. I'll admit, I'm not perfect with this deck yet, but it's one of my favorite decks, absolutely, especially when it comes to ancestrally led decks. I did want to turn your attention to the background. We're getting somewhere with this fire for the background of my quilt. I'm doing a quilt of the picture that we've seen kind of arise from the riots and protests for Mr. George Floyd. And so that's what we have back here. This is going to be the fire. We're going to put the cross from the window, and then the man will be on top of it, the brother going like this, showing that strength and, putting his energy in for an ancestor who absolutely deserves it. And yeah, I think, a riot is such an interesting thing. I have a few actually riot quilts proposed. I have one from Sudan, which was the young lady who was on top of the car, with all the cell phones around her, with her big hoop earrings, the big circle earrings, and her white shroud. That quilt is in my closet. I get inspired by quilts all the time, but my issue is often I choose such a big canvas, I don't know how to fill it properly. So that's my hope here. Is I think this might be the first quilt that I plan, and it's going to turn out looking pretty proper when I'm done with just the 3 elements that I've decided to include so far. The fire, on top of that will be the window, and then of course the gentleman on top, the young man flexing on top. So this is a very exciting quilt for me, and I am getting decently far. If you can see, there's like a white string hanging down. I've gone up maybe about a foot and a half into the fire. Just got to go all the way up and around and down, and then the fire is done, and we can start on the window, which will be easy because I'm going to use the sewing machine, the classic sewing machine for this, so that will be really nice too. And it's like really nice fabric. And then I also made a plan. Let me get my fabric. I have a plan to use. I have this interesting fabric from my skeletons, and I plan to use oh goodness. Okay, I have one right up here. We have these angels, and I plan to cut him out and put him as an ancestor up in the corner. So that corner will still have something in it. This part will absolutely have the young man in it, and I think it will be a really interesting quilt. What do you do with quilts when you're done? Why do I get these urges to make quilts? And my quilts have these huge pictures on them, but what am I going to use these quilts for? What do you do with quilts? What do quilters do who just quilt as a hobby? Do y'all just give your quilts away? Do you sell the quilts? What am I supposed to do with the quilt? I don't know. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for letting me read a card for you, and I'll see you next time. May your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads.